Good to see you. You glad to be here today? Good, good, good. All right, we're going to do another little experiment, so I'm going to need some help up here. We need maybe a couple volunteers. I need 2 volunteers. Way back there? Yeah, I see you. Yeah, come on up. Oh, let's see. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to be even with... This is hard. You're nice and close right up there. Come on up. Yeah, right there. All right, come on up. All right, come on up. Let's go here. So let's hear it for these brave souls that come up here. How are you doing? Tell everybody your first name. What's your name?
Macy.
Macy. What's your name, sir?
My name's Levi.
Levi. Okay, all right. Now, Macy, you got a decision here right away. Green, blue, or red? What do you want? Blue. Okay, do we have any blue fans here? Wow. That leaves you red or green. What do you want?
Green.
Okay, yeah, I figured I'd get stuck with red. Okay, all right, so you guys, let's safety first. So coats go on first. Get your coat on there. And we don't want anyone to get hurt. I don't want to get sued. I want to stay the pastor of this church as long as I can, okay? So, then when you get that on, get those gloves on, get those glasses on. This is going to be kind of crazy up here. If you were here last week, you saw what we're doing. So we're talking about collision in this series and what happens in kind of the natural world when 2 things combine, what happens, and that's what we're going to do today, a little experiment. You better get those gloves on, Macy, just in case. You don't want to hurt your fingers there. So we got a little baking soda action there and some vinegar, and we're going to see what happens when these 2 things combine. And that's really the thing, is what happens when our lives, when our worlds combine spiritually. Okay, so, ready there, Levi? Okay, so, now, where are you? Okay. Just like extra gloves up there. You picked the pink ones. Very nice choice. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Now, in a minute, we're going to take this balloon and we're going to lift it up and we're going to drop the contents down into the bottle. You ready for that? Think you can do it? Now, you got to watch it because when we first do it, it could be a little crazy. All right, you ready? Here we go. Let's do it together in 3, 2, 1, go. Whoa, look out. Okay. All right, just tip that thing over. Let's see what happens. Oh. Kind of cool, these little things combining. Now, what you don't want to do is you don't want to take this balloon off and breathe that in, because this is like pure carbon monoxide. You know what that is? Macy, you know what carbon monoxide is? You do not want to breathe that in. Okay, take the coats off. I think we made it safe. Take your glasses off. Good job. Let's give it up for our volunteers here. Very, very good. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Awesome. All right. Thank you again. So we're talking about what happens when things collide. And I've got a question for you here. When have you ever been desperate? Because you have been desperate. Maybe you're desperate right now and you're not even necessarily aware of it. But when you're desperate, you might do things you normally wouldn't do. Now, how many of you here you just love going to the dentist? Raise your hand if you just love it. There's a few of you out there. I don't quite understand you, but that's the thing, I guess. And how many of you do not like going to the dentist? Raise your hand. Okay. I had some traumatic experiences going to the dentist growing up, and I won't tell you what they are, but I'll just say this. My cousin was my dentist. And I think he kind of had something out for me. But anyway, that's another story for another day. I want you to imagine you got a little toothache happening, and you wake up one morning, you notice kind of this gnaw, just kind of background kind of pain that's kind of dull, but it's there. And you go throughout the day, you wake up the next day, it's still there, maybe a little bit more, and you think, I need to make that dreaded phone call to the dentist. But you're not quite ready to do that. You think, it might just go away. Maybe it's something else. The next day, it gets a little bit worse. And then it starts to throb a little bit. And then you realize, well, if I take a couple aspirin, maybe that'll help. You take a couple aspirin, that kind of knocks the edge off. And then pretty soon, aspirin's not working anymore. And before you know it, this throb is becoming more and more. And now it's like, grit your teeth, get through the day, tears in your eyes kind of pain. You know what I'm talking about? And finally, you make that dreaded phone call, which leads you staring down the face of a root canal because you just waited too long. You know, there's these things in our lives that might cause us to all of a sudden realize, man, I got to get help here. So it might be for you, you might have come here for this moment right now, realizing I'm here because I need a collision with Jesus. There is a need in my life. I'm fully aware of it. I know it might be a relationship in your life that's so toxic and it's just feels like it's bringing you down and you don't really know what to do. You don't know how to get out of it. It might be an addiction in your life. Or that thing that you look for that seems so promising, it's not delivering on those promises, and you realize this is getting out of control and I don't know what to do anymore. And maybe it's just a silent, private thing in your life, but you're starting to have a growing sense of desperation. It might be a physical need in your life that you've just lived with for a while and it's just getting more and more debilitating. It might be a financial situation where you've just got yourself in a mess and you don't really know what to do. But I want to tell you this, desperation opens doors. And some of you now, you might be desperate and know it, but I also believe there's some of you here that you're desperate, but you're not yet aware of it yet. Are you desperate? What does desperation do to us? And where we're going to go today is we're going to talk about what happens when desperation opens a door to healing and it takes us from being hopeless to healed. Powerful story we're going to share today from Scripture. There's a lot of great things happening. Last week, this is something that we celebrate as a church because it's so central to who we are as a group of people, as a family. But there were, last Sunday, 11 people that gave their lives to Christ for the very first time. Come on. It's pretty amazing. And I think about that and I go, that was a collision moment where spiritually, like time and space came together and people's lives were changed. And that's what we celebrate at Daybreak, when people's lives, when we go from death to life. And if you've experienced that, you know how powerful that is. When a life is changed like that. And there was a collision moment that we got to experience right here just a few days ago. And in the world around us, when so many things just seem out of control, when there's a collision happening in the world, when things collide and it doesn't seem good, I think we always need to remember that we need to be pointed to hope. And I want to give you a couple opportunities here in the next few days, very specifically, that only come around once a year. So students, middle or high schoolers, if you're here with me right now, I want you to perk up and listen. This Wednesday, there's something happening throughout the United States and around the world called See You at the Pole. This has been going on for over 30 years. It started organically about 30 years ago with a group of 8 kids in Texas that decided to go to the flagpole of their school and pray for their school. And students, you need to do this. Your school needs your prayers. Your faith can make a difference. So let me encourage you to show up to your school, 7 o'clock at your flagpole this Wednesday. It's the 4th Wednesday of September every year, and go and be a part of joining hundreds of thousands and even over 1 million people that are students that are praying this week at our school. Students, please, I know you're talking about it. Ethan, our youth pastor, is talking about it with our youth group. It's something that's so important. And for the rest of us big kids, our adults, there's something that happens every year on each Saturday around See at the Pole. So See at the Pole is on Wednesday and the Saturday before and after. So the Saturday after, which is this coming week, there's something that Claim Your Campus, which is something I founded 22 years ago, student-led prayer at schools, that we as adults can support our schools through prayer by doing something called the Prayer Walk Project. So this Saturday, let me encourage every single one of you adults. You might be a parent, you might be a grandparent, you just might be a friend or a community member. Go to a school this Saturday that you care about in your community. And I want you to show up however you want to do it. And I just want you to pray on site in that campus on Saturday. There's something that I call praying on site with insight. I believe that there are moments when we show up that God can reveal ways that we can pray specifically. And our schools need our support. They need our prayer. You with me? So let me invite you to show up Saturday. It can be anytime. It's very casual. If you want to get resources on what to do or how to do that, maybe your family, you just might go, maybe invite some friends or whoever. But if you go to claimyourcampus.com, you can get more information and resources on doing this very simple thing. Because listen, it's a sad world that we live in where as parents, we have to wonder about the safety of our kids, isn't it? And this is an action that we can take in response to the danger that we're seeing in the world around us. So I'm just asking you to show up this Saturday and to do that for our kids and our campuses. And this story today is so remarkable. There's some weeks when I just honestly cannot wait for the moment that I get to stand up here and share with you. And this is one of those Sundays for me. I cannot wait. And I just want to, again, give a shout out to our team. If you're maybe a guest or newer to Daybreak, we do these growth guides. They talked about the kids version. These are made in-house, by the way. A team of staff and volunteers puts this together, and these are incredible. And this has been such a guide for me, and I'm so thankful for our team and this incredible resource. And this leads us to someone today whose life collides with Jesus. And here's her story in Luke chapter 8. Now, when Jesus returned, a crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. And then a man named Jairus, a synagogue leader, came to and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come to his house because his only daughter, a girl of about 12, was dying. As Jesus was on the way, the crowds almost crushed him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years, but no one could heal her. And she came up behind him and she touched the edge of his cloak. And immediately her bleeding stopped. Who touched me? Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, Master, the people are crowding and pressing against you. But Jesus said, someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me. And then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, she came trembling and she fell at Jesus' feet. And in the presence of all the people, she told why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. And then he said to her, Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. We know a lot of details about this woman from this story. And there are other versions of this in what we call the four Gospels in the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that have the life and teachings of Jesus. But we know that this woman needed to be healed. She needed healing. It's obvious. Now, maybe no one else in the crowd was aware of what was going on with her, but this was one of those days when Jesus was on his way somewhere. He had just been kind of intercepted by Jairus, and he was going to this house. And on the way, this uninterrupted moment happened where all of a sudden everything stopped for this moment that this woman was healed. And we know from this story that she had been dealing with this illness for quite a long time. Do you remember the number? How many years had she been dealing with this illness? 12 years. That's a long time. If you're 12 years old here, that's as long as you've been alive. Think about that. That's a long time. And she'd been dealing with this, and she needed to find healing. And it said that she was bleeding. This woman is somewhat anonymous because we don't know her name in the story. And I think that's significant because we're going to talk about that. But we don't know her name, but we know what her situation was. And she had been bleeding. Now, I imagine that this was a very debilitating illness for her because it probably kept her from living a normal life in any way that we might think about it. And I would imagine on a daily basis, it was always a factor in her life and every decision that she made. And not only was it a problem for her physically, it was also a problem for her socially. Because in that time, in that culture, religious and cultural viewpoints would have labeled her unclean because of the blood in her body that was coming out. And so that would probably mean that she not only had to deal with this on a physical level, but socially she would have been isolated, maybe even outcast from everyone else. So here she was kind of removed from everyone else in her life. And she's dealing with this problem and she doesn't know what to do. Now in Mark chapter 5, another version of this story says that she tried doctors and she'd spent everything she had and she couldn't find a solution. In fact, she kept continuing to get worse. Now, we don't know her name, but her identity to probably everyone that knew her, and maybe either well or casually, is that's the woman that has that problem. That's the woman that's isolated. That's the woman that can't live a normal life. That's the woman that's got a situation going on, and she was known by her problem. And for her, it would have been, I would imagine, very easy for her illness to become her identity. Think about it. She had this illness and it affected every part of her life. And then pretty soon it would be easy if you're in that situation. I'm just trying to imagine being her, where that would just overwhelm you and you'd feel like, this is who I am. I'm the woman with the problem. And it's really easy for us to fall into the same trap. It's easy for us to all of a sudden realize that maybe we have a problem in our life. It might be an illness. It might be an addiction. It might be a relationship. It might be bad choices. It might be a broken past. But you might in your life have something that's so overwhelming for you that all of a sudden you've just kind of assumed this identity of this illness or this situation. And you've kind of forgotten who you are. You've kind of become the problem. You're not really a person. You're a problem. And that may have been exactly where she was at. But she recognized the need for healing in her life. I mean, we live in a broken world. As a person that's followed student culture and adolescence for several decades, I've been concerned with some of the trends that we're seeing. I want you to look at some of these statistics that reveal some of the challenges that we're facing. This was a study done on high school girls in America. And look at the difference in a 10-year period between 2011 and 2021, the rise in persistent feelings of sadness and seriously considering suicide. That in 2021, almost 3 out of 10 high school ladies in America considered that. And then it gets worse. Those that made a plan, look at the jump between 2011 and 2022. This tells us that 1 in 5 high school girls in America have made an actual plan to take their own life. And over 1 in 10 have actually attempted it. There's nothing more that Satan would want to do, the enemy of your soul, than to steal, kill, and destroy. To get you to end it all and realize that you're not just a person, but that you're a problem. But it's not just adolescence that depression is on the rise in our culture. And we're searching for answers. Then we think about our physical needs, that 6 in 10 Americans have a chronic illness or disease of some kind. That's 60% of us have some kind of chronic situation, and 4 in 10 have more than one, 40%. And it's not just our bodies, it's our relationships. We're becoming estranged from one another. And some of us have experienced this just even in the last couple weeks. That 38% of Americans are estranged from a family member. And I'm going to be transparent with you. I'm one of those 38%. I have people in my family that I'm estranged with, and I live with that every day. And I think, what can I do to change it? That 21% of Americans have become estranged over political views and disagreements. 40 to 50% of marriages end in divorce. That all these are really hard to hear, and they're hard to understand. And for some of us here, this hits home because it's our world. It's what we live in. And it feels like maybe these problems have stolen away who we are, and we're no longer a person. But we're a problem, and we see ourselves that way. Our illness has overtaken our identity. But then we see in the story that the woman tried everything. I referenced it earlier, but in another version of this story in the scripture, it says that she spent everything that she had on doctors, but not only did it not help, but she got worse as a result. So that she tried everything. She talked to every expert. She spent every dime she had. And now she's desperate because not only is she continued to be sick and getting worse, but now she doesn't have any money. She's socially isolated. Everything is going south for her. And she tried everything. And something within her says, why don't I try Jesus? Now, I don't know what situation you might be dealing with. Some of you, you might be dealing with something that's causing you to be so desperate, and it's maybe just overwhelming your mind right now as we're thinking about it and talking about it. And I will tell you that there are many times in my life, if I could be very transparent with you, where I wish I wouldn't have to say this, but the last option is a spiritual one for me. If I have something going on physically, first thing I do is I go online and go, what's the issue? What can I do? How can I get this figured out? You know, what can I do? How can I solve this? Or do I need to find someone in the medical community that can help me? And then if all that doesn't work, then I can pray and ask God to do it. And I'm not saying any of those things are wrong. I'm just saying for some of us, that's maybe a last option or not even an option at all. But you know, when you're desperate, you'll try anything. And I think desperation is a gateway to breakthrough. So several years ago, our family, we took a vacation. We were going to do something we've never done before. We're going to drive out west, and we're going to go to Colorado. We're going to go to Arizona. And it was in August, which is the perfect time to go to Arizona, if you haven't figured that out. And we had a high mileage Honda. So I took it into my friend who runs the shop, and this is scary to do, but I said to my mechanic, whatever this thing needs, do it. Now that's something, you know, you don't want to say that to your mechanic like carte blanche, like here's a blank check, do whatever you want to do. But I'm like, I want to make sure this vacation is great and seamless and flawless. And so just look it over and do whatever it needs to be done. So this guy runs a great shop and he's a personal friend. And so he looked through the whole thing and made a bunch of changes and he goes, here you go, it's ready. So we jumped in our Honda, we started driving. We get to Iowa, it's about dusk, and all of a sudden I can smell the engine getting hot, and I look at the temperature gauge and it's just starting to climb and climb and climb. And we stop at this gas station off the highway in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing there. There's no hotels. There's no town. There's no restaurant. There's no nothing. And it's getting dark, and we're kind of stuck there. And my girls thought it was great, like, yay! And I'm like, this is not fun. So I called my friend who runs the shop, and I said, hey, I got a problem here. Like, what's going on? And so he gave me a little advice, and I'm not good with cars. Like, I just want to open the hood, and there's a big on-off switch that you just got to flip over. You know what I mean? And but he said, just let it cool down. We replaced all the fluids in the vehicle, and maybe there's just like some bubbling in there, and maybe it's just not getting through. And so it sounded like my car needed a burp, is what it sounded like. So he said, just let it sit there for a while. So we did, and it kind of cooled down, and I really didn't have an option, so I started it back up. We sat there, and the temperature gauge didn't move, and so I thought, well, maybe we're good. Maybe it's all working. So we just got in and kept driving. So we get out. Eventually, the first part of our trip is we get into Colorado, and the car's doing great. We drive up to Pikes Peak. If you know what that is a pretty intense thing for a vehicle to get up there. And so we drove all the way up to Pikes Peak, and everything was fine. We drove all the way down. We drove into Phoenix. I'd never seen this before, but on my external temperature gauge is telling me how hot it is. It went up to 120 degrees on my temperature reading. And if you want to know what that feels like if you're driving, roll down your window, stick your arm out. It feels like a big hair dryer just blowing on your whole body. That's what it felt like. It was weird. We drove in 120 degree heat. It was fine. We get to the last night. We're packing up. We got to drive cross country. And we got to get there on time because I got something to do when I get back. We get to Pueblo, Colorado, and guess what? Get that smell again. I looked at the temperature gauge, and it's starting to climb again. And I'm like, man, here we go. I got to get home. And so we pulled over, and it was like the time when all the garages were closing, and it was a Friday night. And I'm like, this is the worst time in the world for this to happen. And I called my friend again, and I just felt like one of those needy friends. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And he goes, take it into the shop, and we'll get it figured out. And when I'm sitting there, and the first thing I did was I just kind of looked up some things online. I lifted the hood, And we're in this parking lot, and this guy comes over and he goes, hey, are you overheating? I go, yeah. And he goes, well, there's something you can try since all the shops are closed. And he goes, I know it sounds weird, but if you crack open an egg and you pour it down into your radiator, when it gets hot, just like when you cook an egg, it will become solid, and it will find the holes in your radiator, and it will fill them as it gets hot, as the egg gets cooked. And I'm like, you know what? It's crazy enough. It just might work. And so we got over to a grocery store, and I went inside, and I'm just sitting here going, I cannot believe I'm doing this. I picked up a dozen eggs, and, my daughters are going, how can you think of food in a time like this? And so I walk out, and I'm carrying a dozen eggs, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And so I open it up. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, this sounds really, really dumb. And it was. I didn't do it. Some guy came along and goes, what are you doing with eggs in your car? And I go, well, I heard this thing. He goes, dude, do not do that, okay? But when you're desperate, you'll kind of try anything. And I feel like there's sometimes that desperation pushes us in a direction to get us to do something that maybe we wouldn't normally do that might be good for us to do. And maybe just like this woman, you've tried everything in the world. You've tried what the world has to offer, and it's fallen so short. Listen to what Jesus says in John chapter 4. He says, whoever drinks the water that I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become a spring of water welling up to eternal life. Here's what Jesus is saying, that nothing in this world will quench the thirst that you have. You can try everything to find healing, and nothing will do it. Jesus is the ultimate source. I've shared this before, but I found something fascinating, that the number one cause of death of those stranded in the ocean is dehydration. Surrounded by an infinite amount of water, and you die of dehydration because out of your thirst, you drink that salt water, which just creates more thirst. And then you drink more. And then pretty soon that salt poisons you from the inside out. And that is a perfect picture of what the world has to offer. If you have an addiction, if you have a relationship, a financial situation, or even something physically, and you can't find the answers, let me tell you, I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving you medical advice, but let me tell you, Jesus is the source of all healing. He's the source of all life. And then we see that this woman pushed through the crowd to get to Jesus. She pushed through. She was willing to do anything. Another version of the scripture says that she said to herself, if I can just get through and touch Jesus, I will be healed. And maybe that's just something she just kept telling herself over and over. If I can just get to Jesus, if I can just get to Jesus, if I can just get to him, then I will find the healing that I've been seeking everywhere else for. And I don't know if you noticed, but it's interesting the posture that's happening here in this story. It says that Jesus was intercepted on his way somewhere by Jairus. And so it's almost like Jesus going this way, and then Jairus says, will you come to my house? And so Jesus starts going this way. And then it says the woman came up behind him and she touched the edge of his cloak. And I'm just imagining, like, the only thing I can kind of relate to in this scene is like being right in front of stage at a concert, when it's just body to body and you're just there and it's just people and sweat and grit and pushing and shoving. And she was willing to go through all of that with her illness. And I just imagine her, it says she came up from behind and she just reached out, and it says she touched the edge of her cloak, to touch the edge of Jesus' cloak. She was willing to push through. And here's the thing, Jesus wasn't coming towards her. Jesus was actually going away from her because she came up behind him. And I think there's sometimes for some of us when it feels like God is going the other direction, that God's got his back to me, that God doesn't care, that God doesn't know I exist, that God doesn't know about my problem, that God's not going to meet my need. And there are times in our life when God will just point right towards us and come right to us. But you know what? There are times when we need to point ourselves towards Jesus and just get to him. And that's what we find in this moment. That Jesus didn't go to her, that she went to Jesus, that she came up her mind. If you feel like God's not on your side, let me just give you some advice. Push through. Push through the noise of the world that says, that won't work. Religion's fake. It's all a scam. That's nothing. It's emotion. It's whatever. Push through the noise. The crowd will tell you, just stay where you are. Just don't worry about it. Just deal with it. Just get used to it. Just allow this thing, this problem, just to become who you are. And Jesus is there for the healing. He's there. And maybe you're at a moment in your life when you just need to push through the crowd and get to Jesus. There are so many things about this story that we don't have the time to get into. But there's a beautiful thought about why she touched the edge of his cloak. In Malachi, there's a prophecy hundreds of years before Jesus that said that the Son of Righteousness will have healing in his wings. And that word wings in the original language describes the edge of a cloak. You know what I think was happening here? She was claiming the promise. She was seeing the promise above the problem. Some of you have allowed your problem to consume your world. It's all you can think about. It's all you can talk about. It's who you've become. You know, maybe you're around those people where it's just all about their problems. Well, I got this going on, and I got this, and I got this. And listen, we need to have people that we can share problems with. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But if that's all you're talking about, if your whole world is a problem, if your whole world is this and that and this situation and everything's against me and this hasn't worked, listen, I get it. But don't allow your illness to become your identity. Because Jesus has more for you. He's got healing in his wings. He's got something for you if you'll just press your way in and find him there. There were maybe hundreds of people in this scene that maybe literally rubbed shoulders with Jesus or ended up coming in physical contact. But why is it that out of the hundreds of people there, and of all those that may have touched Jesus, only one walked away healed? You know why? Because she pressed through. She got there. She was desperate. And some of you, you've got something in your life, and it's like that gnawing toothache, and it's kind of there, and you've kind of ignored it. And you haven't realized how significant or serious it could be. And you need healing. You need deliverance. You need Jesus. Isaiah 53, there's a prophecy that says, but he was pierced, speaking of Jesus, for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought peace on him, that brought us peace, was on him. And by his wounds, you are healed. You are healed. We don't know this woman's name. You know, and I've known this story for a long time. I saw something this week I'd never seen before that's so powerful. You know, the world looked at this woman and they just saw a problem. And maybe she even saw that herself. And while we don't know her name, we do know her identity. Because when she reaches out to touch Jesus, and then it becomes public of what happened, and she comes trembling and says, this is what happened, and I've been healed. There's a moment here that I don't want you to miss. That when Jesus looked at her, he said, daughter. Catch that. Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. Jesus doesn't see a problem. He sees a person. Maybe you've just seen the problem in yourself and you've forgotten that you're a person, that you're an identity. That Jesus, in such a loving and powerful way, speaks to her true identity. And I want to say this. Daughters, you're daughters of the Most High God. Men, you're sons of the Most High God. And you have allowed everything to rob you of your identity. You have lost yourself in your problem. And Jesus has the healing that you need. And I have a straight up challenge for you. Are you desperate enough to want to break through? Are you desperate enough to say, I don't care. I don't care what happens. Who knows? Whatever I have to do, this is a moment that I'm going to push through the crowd and I'm going to get to Jesus and I'm going to search and seek him for the healing that I need. This is a moment I want you to not lose, because I'm going to ask you to do something really bold. For some of you, this is very bold. In a moment, I'm going to invite you to, those of you here in the house, to literally, as we sing a song, come up to the front, just seeking a healing in your life. We don't need to know what it is. God knows. You know. It's an opportunity for you. It might be in a strange relationship. It might be an addiction. It might be a broken past. It might be a spiritual need, a physical need. It might be an emotional need. It's all the same to Jesus. He's got what you need. But here's what I know. You can allow the noise of the crowd to just let this moment pass. Just imagine if that woman would have shown up that day and she really wanted to touch Jesus and she just wasn't willing to push through to get the breakthrough. I can't tell you how many times I've let that happen in my own life. I've missed it. I don't want you to miss this. Stand with me. If you're with us on Daybreak Live, there's a moment for you too. There's a moment to catch what Jesus is doing as he walks by. Here's what we're going to do. If you're on Daybreak Live, there's someone there that wants to respond and connect with you, pray with you. If you're here, we're going to sing this song, and don't let anything get in your way. Come right up here and take just a step of faith and just stand and pray and ask God for the healing that you need as we sing together. Let's respond as God leads. It's just such a privilege that we can meet together and know that we can have a moment where our life collides with Christ. I'm so grateful for those of you with the courage and the desperation in your life to respond. And I want to pray with you specifically. And I had a strong sense today as we've met this morning, and I just want to say it as your pastor. Sometimes I just get a sense of something, and here's what I sense. I think that many of you missed a moment. And I say that with grief in my heart. I think that some of you, you're just not desperate enough yet. And I hope it doesn't take a crash or something bad. But I'm just hoping that you understand that if you miss this moment, it's not too late. And I don't know why I sense that. It might be the Holy Spirit just kind of nudging my heart to share that with you. I believe it is, because I really sense that some of you missed something here today. I'm so grateful for those of you, and God's going to meet your need in a powerful way, and I want to pray for you. So bow your heads with me. And Father, I pray on behalf of my friends that have stepped down in faith today. I thank you for their willingness, their desperation, Lord, to do whatever it takes. God, to push through the crowd to get to you, Lord, and there's something that you have for them, Lord. Even right now, in this very moment, there might be a deliverance of healing to them that they've never known before. And God, I pray that they would continue to seek you to find healing in whatever area of their life they're seeking you. And Father, for those that may, and just in my sense, that may have missed something today, it's not too late. May they find you, God. May they seek you. May they be desperate to find healing in your wings, to reach out, just to touch the edge of your cloak, to know that there's power there for them if they just receive it. Thank you for your healing power, Lord. Thank you for the breakthroughs that we've experienced today. In Jesus' name, amen. It's been so great to be with you. God bless you. We will see you next week.